Hello everyone, it's Katrina. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to, of course, do a mid-year reading check-in to see where I'm at with my reading goals and hopefully hear about any reading plans that you might have for the rest of the year too. I'm going to do a brief flip through of the journal and sort of talk about reading plans for the second half of 2026, and I've also got a few that are in the works for 2027. And so now that July is just beginning, I've had a little bit of a reflection on the last 6 months, and it just went by so fast. So much has happened, of course, and I have been reading, but if I look at my stats compared to 2025, I have only finished, I have finished 23 books this year compared to 32 at the same time. Of course, numbers aren't the only indicator of how well your reading is going. For example, I have started and finished a lot. I have started and not finished a lot as well. I think, for example, the month of April is just pretty much empty. I did not do any reading for the month of April, it looks like. But if I sort of think back over what I did do, I can tell you that I DNF'd a couple of books in that time, and that's why I sort of didn't really get very far. I managed to fill in now my reading sort of overview months, and I changed it up a little bit for this year only because I wasn't reading so much and I wanted to fill in the journal with a little bit more decorations. I just dropped down to 2 stats sort of pie graphs, and even then they kind of change between month to month. You can see there's a lot more gaps compared to my previous year. For example, you can see that all of my months were just that little bit fuller, and that was of course because I had done the challenge to read every single day, whether it was for the 5 minutes, 1 sentence, however it sort of went. And I will say that I have decided for July to December to try pick up that goal again, and to even actually add an extra sort of level of challenge, because when I looked at my stats from last year doing the challenge to previous years, I didn't actually read any more than I had in previous years. It was just kind of spread out over those little tiny increments each day, and which is fine. I mean, I wanted just to see whether I could do it and if it would increase my reading, but it really didn't. I still averaged the same amount of books, which is about 65. So for the rest of 2026, I now want to add the extra level of challenge to it, where I will read for at least 30 minutes every single day. And I plan to track this by using the 365 days at the back of the book. I plan to colour it in one colour if I read that day, and if I read for over 30 minutes, it'll be a different colour. I'm almost up to date with these monthly calendars. One of the other things that I did differently, as well as the pie graphs being a little different, I have added in my favourite read for that month as a little book cover as well. And that was just kind of on a whim. I'm not sure if I will keep doing that for later journals, because even though I would say that this was the favourite for this month, it's not a favorite. It was a good book. It was one of my favorite sort of decluttering books, but it wasn't, if I had to rank everything that I've read so far, I don't think it would make it into the top 5. April I didn't read, so I've left that one blank, and I am yet to fill in my January reading, but I've already picked out my favorite book, which was The Labyrinth House Murders. My weekly pages are still quite sporadic, and one of the other goals for the next half of the year is that I want to maintain this journal more consistently. So between now, which is the beginning of July, and the end of August, I want to really push to make sure I complete this journal in all of the aspects. So the weekly pages, the notes, and the back of the book, because when 1st of September comes around and we can choose our new Hobonichis for 2027, I want to be able to confidently purchase another Hobonichi Weeks to fill in as a reading journal. If those 2 months go really well and I decide to buy the next Hobonichi Weeks, but then towards the end of the year I drop off, then I will revisit whether or not I'm going to repurpose that Hobonichi Weeks instead of having a reading journal. I'm not sure where I would move it to if I didn't have a reading journal. I might consider an undated planner rather than one where I have to fill it in quite so consistently. I've updated most of the back of the book now. I don't even know. I've filmed several videos with my journal, but I haven't ever posted them. Something felt a bit off about them. I wasn't really feeling it, so I hadn't posted them. And in those ones, so I don't know if I have posted or not posted, I wasn't sure if I was going to mark off or how to fill in some things in my journal, but I have now decided that I will highlight the ones that I have read so that I can keep track of them better. And some are on this chopping block even closer. So I pulled out the Swan Thieves, Rosa and the Veil of Gold, and 6-4 as ones that I was just thinking to pass on because I'm just not picking them up even in the last 6 months. But I've decided just to hold off, and I'm really going to give them their last chance for the whole year. But I need to, I can see, focus on my top of the TBR just that little bit more. My reads, I gave 2 pages for my reads for 2026 because after my 2025 was so successful, I wanted to make sure I had enough space. So I just managed to fill it all in, and this time we are a lot less. So I'm hoping to actually manage to get to the second page in the next half of the year. The other thing that was different was that I actually halved my purchases page because I really wanted to work through my own TBR, and for that I was going to purchase less so that I could bump the numbers down. Of course, it's looking very full here though, so I might need to really slow down. I have just resubscribed to Kobo Plus, which is another thing that I had been holding off on because I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed by my TBR, and I have now accepted it. I think it's fine to have a higher TBR than perhaps you think is necessary. I've accepted it, and I don't want to be wasteful and just pass those books along unless I'm really sure that there's nothing about it that I'm interested in reading. So there's always a point where you think, oh, maybe I could just get rid of it, and then I can just kind of tick it off that list. My TBR had been feeling like a to-do list for a long time, but now I have accepted it and I've allowed myself to kind of pick more freely from my books. So I am lessening the purchases though to help with that overwhelm, but I am also allowing myself a Kobo Plus subscription for a little while so I can pick out a few books that I have been interested in and I want to read through Kobo Plus rather than purchasing. I will also add that I didn't really think through this particular page in my journal, and I mentioned it I think in one of my other reading journal videos where I filled it all out from my wish list on Kobo without really sort of thinking where will the ones that I discover over the next year go, because I have filled up this page already. And I think it wouldn't hurt to come back and focus on these ones first and then update the list. My 6 trilogies for 2026 is had a bit of a slow start, but I am focusing on this a little bit more, even more so than my top of the TBR, and I have finished Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club, and I have Lady Helen and the Dark Days Pact all lined up. Those were ones that I could get through my library. I do have a print copy of all of these books, which was why they got put into this particular challenge spread. So the idea was that I have bought the whole trilogy, then I should read them all and decide whether they're ones that I want to keep because I liked them, or ones that were not really for me and perhaps someone else could enjoy. And from these, though, I had read the first in 5 of the 6 trilogies, and so I was going to reread those and then finish this series. So I am working my way through Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club trilogy at the moment. Along with my overwhelm of my TBR numbers, I realized that perhaps signing up to receive extra books that also had a deadline on them may not have been the best idea at the beginning of the year, and I held off on it for a little while. I have done a few more NetGalley reads, but were from previous years, and I have submitted reviews for those. And I do want to at least finish off these few that I accepted so I can put up the review, and I want to get my ratio up a little bit. I'd like to think that in the future I would have more time to pick up some more review copies, but at the minute I just really want to work on the backlog. A to Z. Every time I think I have decided that I will go with author's surname, I think, no, I have to go with title. And the only thing that's stopping me from going with title again is that I couldn't ever find something for X and Y and Z as much in my sort of TBR that I was interested in reading. And I think for 2027, I'm going to even just scrap. My book bingo is going quite well at the moment because I haven't put too much pressure on myself with it, but the idea is that it's just a card and then I can just choose any book that fits into that prompt. So it's quite relaxing. It's all randomized here, and then because of the TBR cards. So who knows if we'll get a bingo. Of course, the aim is always to read all of the 25 prompts, but I just want to see how many I can get marked off. It's just kind of fun. And then lastly, I have my TBR printed out in little book covers. I will say though that they are not complete. I think I must have dropped some or lost them somewhere because they're quite small little covers, and I think the numbers here don't add up to what I counted from my bookcase and my purchase history for Kobo, because I have my print and then it goes into my ebook TBR list. So I know some aren't in here because they are on the trilogies. I didn't double those up. They're not in here as well. And it's really just a capture of what my TBR looked like at the beginning of the year. And then I did to fill up some gaps at the end because it was looking a little bit unusual because it cut off like here. So I just filled in some more pages with some more recent purchases. And I think these will probably fill up over the year as well. But after that, I can't fill in because I have my review pages. And speaking for 2027, if I do decide to go with a reading journal in the Hobonichi weeks again, I'm not going to go with the mega. I got very confident with this one because I was keeping it up to date so well. And I was very confident that I could also add in like full review pages, and I don't know why, because I had these mini ones, which was what I was going to do here, and I never filled those ones in either. So I think I'll go back to this sort of a format where I can put sort of an overview of the book all in one place, but I definitely do not need these pages. And I did get carried away. I have put in lots of little covers for the last 6 months, and I've still got all these blank pages to go. So there you have it. That's the main parts of my reading journal. It's very similar to 2025. Of course, I wasn't marking off the calendar because I didn't do the challenge, and I'm actually shifting that sort of challenge idea to my 365 days at the back anyway. The Storygraph and Kobo integration has finally gone live, and what I do like for Storygraph is that it can capture one of the stats that I have wanted to capture in my journal, but it's just a bit too time and labor intensive for me. I wanted to write on here sort of either how many, like, so I sort of penciled it in here. You can see how many pages I read per day. And Storygraph, even though it takes a percentage of my ebook, it converts it into pages read for me. So I kind of like the idea of perhaps doing like a color graph for the last half of the year on here to say whether, you know, if it's like 1 to 30 pages or 1 to however many pages I think. And then I can color it and I can kind of see the average of how many pages I might read in a day. Just as an extra fun stat. This is all over for stats. I just like to sort of see everything in one place. And I will, of course, keep trying to update my monthly calendars with my overviews. I always really love doing these because I can choose some colors. I need to do a bit of a rethink because my pie graphs, 1, are never reliable, and 2, they're always something different. So for example, for February I did whether it was owned or just other, but because in March my books were either ones that I owned or a NetGalley, I changed my pie graph. I would like to be a little bit more consistent with those, so I'm thinking I might rethink that. But I did take away the so I would have my purchases and my reads listed down the bottom, and I didn't mind having that. It was nice to sort of see it all listed out so I could see how much I'd purchased compared to how much I had read in the month. But because my reads are sort of listed here, and then, you know, it's all listed throughout the journal, and then also I have my list at the back, I had thought maybe for 2026 to drop it, but I am unsure. I'm using this year to sort of play around because everything kind of got out of whack anyway. So I can now, for the last half of the year, do a few different trial and errors and see what the layout might work for next year if I manage to keep up with it and get my new Hobonichi Weeks reading journal. Thank you for watching, and I hope your reading has been going very well for 2026. I think my reading is going fine. When I think about how I have, you know, a couple of hundred books that I want to read that I already own, plus others that I want to read, I wouldn't mind picking up the pace just a little bit for the last half of the year. Happy reading!